Hey guys, Ms. Willis here, and today we're going to be looking at mechanical and chemical digestion in your digestive system. So this is a lab that we would have done just quickly at the beginning of class. We would have taken a gummy bear and you would have put it on your tongue and see how long it takes for it to dissolve. And then you do it another time and you would chew the gummy bear and see how long it was until it was gone. And then we would figure out what is it that happens. And so we know that mechanical and chemical digestion are things that happen. Mechanical, physically breaking it up. We use our teeth, we use our tongue, we use our cheeks, we use our muscles of mastication to help chew all of that up so that it's in smaller pieces with more surface area before we swallow it down. There's also chemical digestion. We have amylase, which is an enzyme in your saliva that goes ahead and starts breaking down carbohydrates. So then we would have done this with a cracker. Similar to the gummy bears, if you let a cracker sit there, it starts to dissolve. Versus if you chew it, you break it into smaller pieces and it dissolves faster. And if you've ever done this experiment on your own or with another teacher before, if you just let a cracker sit in your mouth and you don't do anything else, it actually starts to taste somewhat sweet over time. And that's because those microscopic molecules of sugar and carbohydrate, and other carbohydrates are being released from the cracker. So just quickly reviewing enzymes. Enzymes can break stuff down or build them up. Since we're talking about the digestive system, we're going to focus on how they break things apart. So remember that we have enzymes. They are not changed throughout a reaction. We have the substrate, whatever it is they're acting on, like your carbohydrates. They come in and there is some chemical reaction that requires so much energy that it takes a long time to build up enough energy to make it happen. And so enzymes lower the amount of energy needed and allow that to happen faster. And so in this case, the substrate links on and then the enzyme will break it apart and we have our products at the end. And so we brought in the cracker and it starts getting broken down into simple sugars. Then you start swallowing. And I'll link all these other videos separately. I can't show them within this video. But when you swallow, right, you can feel that your throat actually moves upward. Do it right now. You feel that it moves upward. Remember that you'll have that epiglottis cover your trachea, and food and drinks will move behind that to your esophagus so that you don't get food and water in the pipe that you breathe out of. I'll link this video too. But the process of peristalsis, there's circular muscles that go around all of our alimentary canal, all of the organs that the food goes through. And then there's the long ones so that they can pinch and push and pinch and push and pinch and push the food along. When we get into the stomach, there's chemical and mechanical digestion in here. Notice that in here, there is also an oblique, diagonal muscle within the stomach. So there's actually that churning motion to get the food to break down even further. There is chemical digestion, obviously, with hydrochloric acid. There's going to be pepsin within there that's going to break down our proteins. And I'll link this too, but this is just showing peristalsis versus segmentation, which will be in that video. I know there's a lot of linked videos here, and I will have them all linked on Canvas. But this one is looking at the enzymes, the specific names of them. There's lots of different ones. Then we get into absorbing and eliminating what's left of our food. And so here's your objectives if you want to pause and read those. But when we look at the walls of the digestive system, there are many layers to them. When you have it moving through like the small intestine, we're going to have all of those villi and things along our mucosal layer. so that we have more contact with the bloodstream so that more nutrients can be absorbed. So when we look, villi, if you look in here, you see that there are ridges, right? You see all of those ridges in there. Those are they're circular folds, and then within those we have all these villi, all these extra bumps to make more surface area within there. And then when you look on each of those individual bumps, you'll see that there are even more bumps along them. Those are called microvilli. So if you look really close, all of the bumps have their own individual bumps. And it actually just kind of looks fuzzy, like velvet on the inside of the small intestine. And all of this is so that when you see that you have these capillaries in this area within the villi, so that the nutrients get absorbed due to diffusion, and those get into your bloodstream. We're not going to focus on the lacteal, but you can pause this and read about it if you want. And then with the final absorption, you can see that with carbohydrates versus proteins versus fats, how we have these different names, and they're getting into our either blood capillaries or our lymphatic capillaries. So remember that those wrap around with your blood vessels as well. Then when we get to the large intestine, it doesn't have as many folds as the small intestine does, but it has these big giant pouches called haustra. Okay, so looking within here, we get that we're taking up mostly water in the large intestine, but there are other things like minerals, salts, vitamins that get reabsorbed at this point as well. We know that there's bacteria within here. E. coli helps us with digesting vitamin K, so this is an area where we would reabsorb that as well. So the use of the nutrients, it all is going to be going into our body cells, and so we'll have either we repair different cells, we store them for energy, we use them for our muscles, or keep them down in our liver and store them there. So you can look at what the different vitamins do here if you want to pause this and take a minute to read. Then with this movement within your colon, instead of just like pushing all of it around really quickly, you'll have what are called haustral churning, and it's kind of like there's a pinch and everything just sloshes back and forth for a while. And this happens a bunch of times within over hours, because it actually takes you like 18 hours to digest all your food from start to finish. And one of the big areas where this is all being held up is in the colon. So when we're actually making the feces, all the stuff that we're no longer keeping, that's when a lot of this happens. And then you have your mass movement, your BM, yes? The poop, right? When it comes out in the toilet, yes, maybe. Notice that it says mass movements are strong peristaltic waves that propel feces relatively long distances. These movements occur 2 or 3 times a day. So that does not mean that you poop 2 or 3 times a day. Some people don't poop at all in a day. It might be every other day, every couple of days. Or it might be that you're going 2 or 3 times a day. You're spending a lot of time, but you get a lot of books read during that time. Or watching TikTok or whatever you do. Gross, wash your hands. But in all fairness, we have where the poo actually comes out is the process of defecation. You have the anal sphincter, the external and internal ones. So external out here, it's made of skeletal muscle. You can control that. The internal one, when there is pressure against that, that's what tells you you gotta go. Okay. You can keep holding it. It's just like when you've got gas. You can keep holding it, but it starts to get painful, and eventually, if you keep holding it, the external sphincter, there's going to be too much pressure against it that it can't hold it anymore and it's going to come out. So again, I'll link all these other videos about this one showing about why do I have gas, things that cause constipation, and this is a nice little British narrator video talking about diarrhea. But a fun thing with diarrhea and, with diarrhea versus constipation. Constipation is when your body has absorbed so much water that the fecal matter is now stiff, and that's why it's not really moving forward very easily. Versus diarrhea is when your body is not absorbing very much, and so all the water is staying in the feces, which is why it's coming out in like a liquid form. And a lot of times these follow each other. So if you've had a lot of diarrhea, you're going to become dehydrated. And so then after having that diarrhea and your body losing all that water instead of absorbing it, now it's going to try to absorb way more of it. And because of that, that can lead to constipation. So just fun things about your poo. You could also look up about why it's brown. It has to do with your liver. And so anyway, I'll see you guys next time.